and an aircraft that's giving its first British flying displays at our show this weekend. Now on the roll, the Douglas C-41a. American Airlines launched a new aircraft for its so-called sleeper services across the United States. Douglas came up with a more advanced, developed and larger version of its already excellent DC-2. It produced it in two versions, the Douglas Sleeper Transport, DST, which could take 14 passengers with bunks installed in the cabin, and the better-known DC-3 with 21 standard seats. Immediately, the new aeroplane made those services faster and more profitable for their operators, and soon all the major American carriers at the time operated DC-3s. And it was a natural choice to go into military service. And what we're seeing here is the second ever DC-3 for the American military. The only ever C-41a. It was ordered by what was then still called the US Army Air Corps, still to become the Army Air Forces, in 1938, and it was delivered to its base at Bolling Field in Washington, D.C. on the 14th of September, 1939. This was one of two aircraft requisitioned by one of the most famous figures in the history and the development of American military aviation, Major General Henry Hap Arnold, as VIP transports for himself and his military command and staff, as well as other high-ranking officials, including the then US Secretary of War. In fact, many years ago, we saw its sister ship, the first ever military DC-3, the C-41, then owned by the wonderfully named Otis Spunkmeyer Air, when it came over to Europe for the D-Day 50th anniversary commemorations in 1994. Both that aircraft and this C-41A were on the strength of the first Staff Squadron at Bolling Fields. They were fitted out with, as you can imagine, very well-appointed interiors. The main cabin was equipped with swiveling seating to allow in-flight meetings. The forward cabin was originally configured with 4 sleeping berths and upper skylights above them, similar to the original Douglas sleeper transports. Soon after the war, it was disposed of by the American military, but this incredibly historic aeroplane thankfully was destined to survive. It entered civilian life as what else in executive transport until it started getting attention from flying museums in the late 1980s. It spent some time at the Planes of Fame East Museum and the Lone Star Flight Museum. And then it was bought by Golden Age Air Tours in Sonoma, California. And it came to Europe for the D-Day 75th anniversary in 2019. It, after attending various events that season, entered maintenance at Coventry Airport. It re-emerged this year, just before the very sad closure of that historic aerodrome. And its owner, Richard Martin, now keeps the aeroplane at Wolverhampton Hackney Green Airport, Well, it took part in the DAX over Duxford D-Day anniversary event in 2019 here. We didn't see it giving any displays on that occasion. It also came to our Battle of Britain Air Show that year for static display, but this is its first proper flying display on these shores. And what's really astonishing about this aircraft, which as I say was delivered to the American military in 1939, is that it's one of the lowest time DC-3s or DC-3 variants still flying. It's got less than 10,000 hours total time on the airframe. There are some DC-3s, C-47s, call them what you will, with 90,000 plus hours on them. And in honour of its association with the great Major General Hap Hartwell, the aircraft is known as Penstance. It's a really important part of the story of this most famous of all transport aircraft. And Colin, it allows us to link through from this airplane through to the much better known C-47s and C-53s from later in the war, which of course were the weapons in the Allied invasion of Europe. Very reliable, very robust. Tens of thousands of miles. Aircraft like this earning a living. There are. It was an incredibly difficult aircraft to replace. There were all sorts of very well-known post-war commercial types, aircraft like the Fokker F-27 and so forth, which were trying to capture that DC-3 replacement market, and none of them ever